Today, I want to share with you my story. My story is what government and policymakers often refer to as irregular migration. Mine is a journey that began with the fear and desperation in my homeland, Afghanistan, as I sought out safety and stability for my family, and what brought me here to Malaysia. What you will hear is an account of difficult choices faced by those who must flee their homeland, the dangerous path we are forced to take when other options don't exist, and the exploitation we often encounter along the way. My story is not unique. It reflects the experience of countless others who have had to make similar journey. As I speak about crossing borders in darknesses, placing my trust in smugglers, and sacrificing everything for an uncertain future, I ask you to consider what drives people to make such risks. I wouldn't choose this path again, and I would not have chosen it then, had the alternative not been worse. I didn't leave Afghanistan because I wanted a better job or a more comfortable life. I left it because I meant danger for me, my wife and son. The decision wasn't made lightly. It came after realizing that the place we called home could not longer protect us. My father, a high-ranking official in the Afghanistan National Security Forces, was assassinated in 2016 in Herat. Following his death, direct threat against my brother and me began immediately. Our Hazara ethnicity made things worse for us as we faced regular discrimination that put our lives in serious danger. When you face persecution, you don't have many choices, and remaining where I wasn't an option. Facing immediate danger and unable to obtain the necessary documentation quickly enough, we could not apply for visas. We could not leave Afghanistan through regular channels. Our survival depending finding alternative routes to safety. With no safe option available to us, I reached out to a smuggler who was a distant relative. I turned to a smuggler not by choice, but by necessity. There was simply no other way. Without the required documentation, we couldn't obtain visas. Without guides who knew the route, we couldn't navigate the dangerous borderland ourselves. After entrusting everything to my brother, I took my family and deported for Zaranj on the Afghanistan-Iran border. He promised safe passage to Iran within 5 days. Smugglers rarely tell the truth about the journey. They promise safety but hide the reality of what lies ahead. Most families traveling with us had no idea about the long walks or harsh conditions they would face. Luckily, because our smuggler was a relative, he was more honest than most. He at least warned us about some of the difficulties, while others received only false assurances. But even with this relative honesty, we remained just one more family paying for safe passage, with no real guarantee of what lay ahead. We traveled through the Raja route, moving from Afghanistan through Pakistan to reach Iran. Most of the journey was on foot and occasionally on donkey. The journey was physically devastating. We moved only after dark to avoid detection. Walking through the night felt like someone had placed their hands over my eyes. I struggled to find my footing across the rough terrain, trying to stay close to the group while making sure my belongings were safe. Most importantly, I needed to keep my wife and son close. I had heard stories of smugglers kidnapping children during these journeys. Walking for days through Pakistan to Servan nearly broke our spirits. My wife became seriously ill from exhaustion and severe dehydration. All we hoped for at the point was to stay alive. We didn't think we would make it. It took us 1 week before we finally arrived to Iran. We stayed in Iran for more than 2 years, but life there was difficult without proper documentation. None of us, not me, my wife, or my child, had legal paper. When my child fell very ill, we could not access hospital. I worked 12 hours days for wages that barely covered food and rent. The initial plan was to stay in Iran, but I quickly realized that it would not be feasible for us to establish a life there. Whenever I needed to leave the house, I was always fearful of being caught and sent back to Afghanistan, where I feared for my family's safety. With no legal status, there was no hope or future for us in Iran. It was a tough time for the whole family, and I saw no other option than to leave again. Initially, we thought of going to Turkey, but a friend in Tehran mentioned someone who could arrange passport and visas to travel to Malaysia. The decision wasn't our original plan. It emerged through conversation with these friends. My family and I knew nothing about Malaysia, culture, food, or language. We had no connection there, no one waiting for us. It was simply an unexpected path that opened when all other options seemed closed. I had to place my trust in another smugglers, only to be deceived. The smuggler we were referred to first got one price, but after we made the initial payment, he demanded more. We had no choice but to agree. He wouldn't return the money, and starting over wasn't an option. Unfortunately, situations like this are not unusual. When people are desperate, smugglers often take advantage. Knowing we had little room to question, negotiate, or refuse, I ended up using all my savings and selling my house back in Afghanistan just to keep moving forward. Even then, I had to borrow from relatives. After 6 months, with our new albeit counterfeit document in hand, we were ready to leave. The smugglers not only provide the documentation, but also provide us with instruction on what to say at the airport and how to behave at the border. We left Iran in the search of a place where we could belong. First flying to Doha, then to Kuala Lumpur. I have now been in Malaysia for nearly 5 years, waiting for my refugee cases to be processed. I continue to hope that one day we will be resettled. The first year was really tough, but now it was getting better. I've found ways to sustain myself and my family through developing practical skills. Slowly, I'm beginning to settle into life in Kuala Lumpur, far from home, but beginning to rebuild. I know my story is just one among many. Across the region and around the world, countless people continue to face what I faced and make difficult choices that I also made. For many of us, these choices are both a last resort and a lifeline. And without safe and regular pathway, we're often left with no choice but to trust the smugglers facing exploitation and danger along the way. These are not journeys made by choices, but out of desperation to protect our families and seek safety when there are a few alternatives. While I do not know what lies ahead for me and my family, I hope my story highlights the difficult choices and dangerous journeys that people like us are forced to make, and what might be done to address this complex issue.